Welcome to Boone Crimson Channel. I went undercover at the company my sister owns. 3 months into my internship, HR informed me that I wouldn't be offered a full-time position and that they were docking my entire probationary salary. The reason? You took 3 days off. I had to stop myself from laughing. First, it was bereavement leave. Second, I followed all legal procedures. Third, I turned my head and looked at Ryan, another intern from my cohort. He took a total of 21 days off to take care of his girlfriend's period cramps. On what grounds was he offered a full-time position? The HR manager shot me a look of pure contempt. This company is his family's. On what grounds do you think? Besides, his girlfriend has severe cramps. It can be life-threatening. It was just your grandmother who died. What right do you have to take time off? 1. On the last day of my internship, I was summoned to the office of Sharon, the HR manager. Cole, your application for a full-time position has been denied by the company. I wasn't surprised by the outcome. Furthermore, she continued, a smug look on her face due to your excessive absences during the probationary period, which severely impacted your work progress, your entire 3-month intern's salary will be forfeited as per company policy. This time I did laugh out loud. Sharon, I'm going to need an explanation. My reaction seemed to infuriate her. She sat bolt upright, her sharp, narrow eyes fixing on me like a hawk. An explanation? What is there to explain? It's written in black and white. Absences cannot exceed 2 days. How many did you take? 3, I answered calmly. First, it was bereavement leave for my grandmother, which is a legally protected right. Second, I submitted all the required documentation, and it was approved by my department supervisor. Third, my gaze drifted past her to a figure clowning around with colleagues just outside her office. Ryan, who started at the same time as me, took 3 separate leaves of absence over the last 3 months, each one for 7 days, to care for his girlfriend during her period. That's 21 days total. Why was his position made permanent? Sharon scoffed, leaning back in her chair with an air of lazy superiority. Cole, did your internship turn your brain to mush? You're comparing yourself to Ryan. Don't you ever bother to find out who runs this place? Besides, she said, her voice dripping with disdain, Ryan's girlfriend has menstrual pain. It's excruciating. It could affect their ability to have children one day. That's a serious matter. And you? She looked me up and down, her lip curling. It was just your grandmother who died. Old people die. It's not a big deal. Was that really worth taking 3 days off? So dramatic. I lowered my eyes and stopped arguing. As she continued her tirade of sharp, petty insults, I silently reached into my pocket. My finger slid along the side of my phone and pressed the lock button. Just before the screen went dark, I saw it clearly. The bright red pulsing timer of a voice recording. Perfect. I had all the evidence I needed. 2, I walked back to my desk in the marketing department. My expression blank, my water bottle in hand, the usually bustling office fell silent. Every eye in the room swiveled toward me like a searchlight. I could sense the pity, the curiosity, but mostly the shot in Freude. The low hum of whispers was like the buzzing of flies. I ignored them all and walked straight to my desk to pack my things. My keyboard, my mouse pad, a coffee mug I'd had for 3 years, a few textbooks. My fingers paused as I picked up the proposal for the Starlight Initiative. This plan, born from countless sleepless nights, had ended up being the crowning achievement on Ryan's resume. I remembered it vividly. My direct supervisor, Greg, a middle-aged man with a receding hairline whose favorite phrase was, "Better to let sleeping dogs lie," had presented the proposal to Ryan in front of the entire department, praising him for his raw talent and promising future. And me, the actual creator, had received a dismissive. Cole contributed as well. Keep up the good work. All of this happened because everyone in the office was convinced that Ryan was the CEO's fiancé. Hey Cole, what are you doing? Ryan sauntered over, looking down at me with a disgusting, feigned surprise. Packing up so suddenly? Did Sharon say something harsh? Don't take it to heart. Her bark is worse than her bite. He reached out to hold down the flaps of my cardboard box, but I sidestepped him. I couldn't be bothered to look at him, continuing to sweep the last belongings into the box. He seemed to lose interest, his voice taking on the gloating tone of a victor. Well, don't feel too bad about it. Just because you didn't make it here doesn't mean you won't make it somewhere else. Tell you what, in a few days I'll have my girlfriend keep an eye out for you, find you a good job somewhere. How does that sound? I finally stopped and looked up at him, saying nothing. My direct gaze seemed to make him uncomfortable, but he puffed out his chest anyway. I picked up my box, turned and walked away. Cole, Jenny from reception ran over and grabbed my arm, her eyes red. They're being awful. This is just bullying. Jenny was the only person in the company who had treated me like a friend. I patted the back of her hand and discreetly slipped the digital recorder into her pocket. "Keep this safe for me," I whispered. She blinked, then nodded firmly. I didn't look back again. I walked toward the elevator, one step at a time, the box in my arms. As I passed the large glass wall of the office, I could see the faces inside, all scheming and self-satisfied. The elevator door slid shut, sealing me off from their world. Three days later was the company's welcome gala for new employees. I had no intention of going. An intern who'd just been fired attending a party to welcome himself sounded like a bad joke. But Jenny's calls kept coming one after another until my phone was about to die. "Cole, are you really not coming? The food is free, it's a waste not to eat it." I looked at my pale face in the mirror. The refusal was on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed it. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should see Ryan in his moment of triumph, accepting everyone's congratulations. Before I could decide, I received an unexpected call. It was my sister Sarafina. "Cole, where are you?" Her voice on the other end was familiar, a little tired but as steady as ever. "At home. Sis, aren't you supposed to be in Europe for business?" "Did you finish?" "Early change of plans, I just landed." She paused, a hint of a smile in her voice. "I have a surprise for you tonight. A gift to celebrate my little brother's successful new job." My stomach dropped. "What kind of surprise? I'm not telling you yet. Get ready, I'm on my way to pick you up." She hung up before I could ask anything else. I stared at the dark screen of my phone, a sense of foreboding creeping over me. Meanwhile, in the grand ballroom of the Starlight Hotel, the gala was in full swing. Sarafina, dressed in an elegant custom-made gown, captured every eye in the room the moment she entered. Her presence seemed to suck the air out of the room for a few seconds. No one had expected the rarely seen, almost mythical CEO to personally attend a simple welcome party for new hires. She ignored the executives who rushed over to greet her, her sharp gaze sweeping across the room as if searching for someone. Twice, a slight frown creased her brow. Cole wasn't here. Her eyes finally settled on the reception desk area where she spotted a familiar face. Jenny. She knew about Jenny. Cole had mentioned she was his only real friend at the company. Sarafina strode toward her. "Ms. Vance." Jenny was so startled she nearly dropped her champagne flute. She shot to her feet, a nervous wreck. "Where is Cole?" Sarafina's question was direct. Her voice was quiet, but it carried an undeniable weight of authority. "Secoy." Jen's eyes darted around nervously. He wasn't feeling well today, so. "He didn't come." Sarafina stared at her, her fingers unconsciously twisting the ring on her finger. "Not feeling well," she repeated, her tone unreadable. "I just spoke to him on the phone a few minutes ago. He didn't mention anything about not feeling well." The color drained from Jen's face. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Her reaction was more telling than any excuse. Sarafina's heart sank. Something was wrong. Just as Sarafina's patience was wearing thin, the ballroom lights dimmed. A single spotlight hit the center of the stage. The host cheerfully announced that the welcome gala had officially begun. HR manager Sharon, dressed in a brand new suit, walked onto the stage, beaming. She savored the attention, cleared her throat, and began in a dramatic sing-song voice. "Good evening, leaders, colleagues, and friends. Today is a day for celebration, a day we welcome fresh talent into our company. After 3 months of rigorous evaluation, a group of outstanding interns has distinguished themselves and will now officially join our big family." Polite applause rippled through the room. Sarafina sat in the VIP section in the corner, her fingers tightening around her wine glass, her icy gaze locked on Sharon. "And now I will announce the names of the interns who have successfully been offered full-time positions." Sharon's voice rose with unconcealed pride. She lifted her cue card. From the tech department, Kevin Wung and Michael Lee. From administration, Jessica Zairo. With each name, a small pocket of tears and applause would erupt from the crowd, but Sarafina's expression grew darker by the second. The atmosphere around her became so cold that several executives who had planned to offer her a toast thought better of it and stayed away. And finally, Sharon drew out the word, a sycophantic grin plastered on her face. "I want to introduce a true prodigy from our marketing department." Not only did he contribute several brilliant ideas during his internship, but his performance was leagues ahead of everyone else. He is the future star of our company, Ryan. The spotlight instantly swung to Ryan in the audience. He rose gracefully from his seat, dressed in a designer suit, and waved to his colleagues with the smug, self-assured air of a winner. The entire room erupted in the loudest applause of the night. Sharon continued to gush from the stage. "Mr. Ryan's excellence is clear for all to see. His joining our team will undoubtedly bring a new wave of energy to the Vance Corporation. Let's give him one more round of applause to officially welcome him. Aboard, the applause was thunderous. Sarafina's gaze swept over Ryan without lingering, then returned to Sharon's face. She listened silently. She listened until Sharon closed her cue card and with a triumphant smile announced, "That concludes the list." She had not heard the name she was waiting for. Cole, her brother Cole's name was not on the list. 5. The ballroom echoed with applause and cheerful chatter, but the air around Sarafina's table had practically frozen. Solid, Greg, the marketing director who loved to let sleeping dogs lie, was the first to notice the CEO's chilling aura. He tentatively approached, a sycophantic grin plastered on his face, holding a glass of expensive champagne. "Ms. Vance, it is truly an honor to have you grace us with your presence tonight. We had no idea you were returning from Europe so soon." Sarafina didn't look at him. Her eyes remained fixed on the stage, where Ryan was now accepting handshakes and backslaps like a conquering hero. "Greg, isn't it?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Yes, ma'am, Greg Thomas, Director of Marketing." He puffed his chest out slightly. "The new intern Ryan is one of my direct reports, a brilliant mind. He spearheaded the Starlight initiative that will be rolling out next quarter." "Is that so?" Sarafina finally turned to look at him. Her gaze was sharp enough to cut glass. "And where is the other intern from your department?" "Cole." Greg's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but he quickly recovered, waving a dismissive hand. "Orly, yes. Unfortunately, he didn't meet the company's rigorous standards. He lacked focus and dedication. We had to let him go." "Lacked focus," Sarafina repeated, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "Yes, exactly," Greg continued, oblivious to the warning signs flashing in Sarafina's eyes. "He was constantly taking time off. 3 days of unauthorized absence. We simply can't tolerate that level of unreliability, especially compared to a dedicated talent like Ryan." "Unauthorized absence," Sarafina murmured. She remembered the phone call 3 weeks ago. Cole, his voice thick with tears, telling her that Grandma had passed away in her sleep. She had been stuck in Berlin, finalizing a merger, unable to fly back for the funeral. Cole had handled everything alone. She stood up slowly. The movement was graceful, but it carried the terrifying weight of an apex predator preparing to strike. "Excuse me, Greg," she said smoothly, walking past him. Without another glance, she headed straight for the stage. The low murmur of conversation in the ballroom died down as the CEO ascended the steps. Sharon, who was still standing at the microphone, looked surprised, but quickly rearranged her face into a beaming, obsequious smile. "Miss Vance, what a wonderful surprise. Would you like to say a few words to our new—" "Give me the microphone, Sharon," Sarafina interrupted, her voice cutting through the remaining chatter like a whip crack. Sharon blinked, her smile freezing. She handed over the microphone, stepping back nervously. Sarafina stood at the center of the stage, her gaze sweeping across the sea of faces. It was a look of pure, unadulterated authority. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "Good evening," she began, her voice echoing through the silent ballroom. "I wasn't planning on attending tonight. I flew back from Europe early specifically to celebrate the hiring of a very promising young talent, someone I have known for a long time." A ripple of excitement went through the crowd. Ryan, standing near the front, puffed out his chest even further, a smug smirk playing on his lips. He was clearly convinced she was talking about him. However, Sarafina continued, her voice dropping an octave, turning cold and hard as steel. "I seem to have arrived at a very different kind of party. I arrived at a party where mediocrity is celebrated, nepotism is rewarded, and genuine talent is discarded like trash." The silence in the room deepened, turning heavy and suffocating. The smug smile vanished from Ryan's face. Sharon swallowed hard, a bead of sweat forming on her forehead. "I was informed just moments ago that Cole, an intern in the marketing department, was not offered a full-time position," Sarafina said, her voice echoing menacingly. "I was told he lacked focus, that he was unreliable, that he took 3 days of unauthorized absence." She looked directly at Greg, who was suddenly looking very pale and very small. "Greg, was it you who approved Cole's bereavement leave?" Greg stammered, his face turning a blotchy red. I signed the form." "Yes, but HR, Sharon." Sarafina cut him off, turning her icy gaze to the HR manager. "Did you dock Cole's entire 3-month salary for taking legally mandated bereavement leave?" Sharon opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. She looked like a fish gasping for air. "I'll take your silence as a yes," Sarafina said softly. She then turned her attention to Ryan. "And you, Ryan, I understand you were offered a full-time position despite taking 21 days off during your probationary period. A collective gasp echoed through the ballroom. Whispers erupted like a sudden storm. 21 days in a 3-month probation. Ryan's face drained of colour. He stepped forward trying to salvage his pride. Ms. Vance, with all due respect, my absences were necessary. My girlfriend suffers from severe menstrual pain. It's a medical condition. HR approved every single day, did they? Sarafina asked, raising an eyebrow. She looked back at Sharon. Sharon, did you approve 21 days of leave for a probationary employee to care for his girlfriend's period cramps while denying a full-time position and docking the salary of an employee who took 3 days to bury his grandmother? Sharon was shaking now, visibly trembling under the crushing weight of Sarafina's stare. Miss Vance, you don't understand. Ryan, his family, they have connections. Connections. Sarafina laughed, a sharp, humorless sound that sent shivers down the spines of everyone in the room. What connections, Sharon, tell me. Sharon squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the floor would open up and swallow her whole. He's the CEO's fiancé. The silence that followed was absolute. It was a silence so profound, so absolute, it felt almost physical. Then a voice broke from the back of the room. A clear, calm voice. That's interesting. I don't remember getting engaged. 6. All heads snapped toward the entrance. There, standing in the doorway, dressed in a simple pair of jeans and a t-shirt, stood Cole. He looked pale, exhausted, but his eyes were burning with a quiet, fierce intensity. He walked slowly into the ballroom, the crowd parting for him like the Red Sea. He didn't look at Ryan, who was staring at him with a mixture of shock and terror. He didn't look at Sharon, who looked like she was about to faint. He didn't look at Greg, who was desperately trying to make himself invisible. He walked straight to the stage, stopping at the foot of the stairs, looking up at his sister. Hey sis, he said quietly. Sarafina looked down at him, her expression softening for a fraction of a second before hardening into something terrifying. Cole, she said, her voice carrying across the silent room. Care to explain what Sharon means when she says Ryan is my fiancé? Cole sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's a rumor, Sarafina. A rumor Ryan started on his first day. He implied he was dating you. He bragged about it to anyone who would listen. He used it to get out of work, to steal credit for other people's projects, and to secure a full-time offer. He turned to face the crowd, his gaze sweeping over his former colleagues. Some looked guilty, some looked shocked, most just looked terrified. He didn't write the Starlight Initiative, Cole said, his voice ringing out clearly. I did. Every word, every spreadsheet, every projection. I have the timestamps on my computer to prove it. He turned back to Sarafina. He took 21 days off, Sarafina. And when I asked HR why he got a full-time offer and I didn't, Sharon told me it was because his girlfriend's period cramps were more important than our grandmother's funeral. A collective murmur of disgust ripped through the audience. Sarafina closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. When she opened them again, the storm in them was fully unleashed. Jenny, she called out, her voice echoing in the stunned silence. Jenny, who was still standing by the reception area, jumped slightly. Why yes, Miss Vance, come here, please. Jenny practically ran to the stage, looking terrified. Cole mentioned, you had something for me, Sarafina said, extending her hand. Jenny nodded frantically, reaching into her pocket and pulling out the small black digital recorder. She placed it in Sarafina's outstretched hand with trembling fingers. Sarafina held up the recorder, her gaze locking onto Sharon. This, she said, her voice deadly calm, is a recording of your conversation with Cole this afternoon, Sharon. A conversation where you mocked a grieving grandson, admitted to violating labor laws, and proudly declared your complicity in a gross abuse of power. Sharon burst into tears, falling to her knees on the stage. Miss Vance, please, I was just following orders. He told me he was your fiancé, a tilde copyright. I was scared for my job. You should be, Sarafina replied, her voice devoid of any pity. Because as of this moment you are fired. You will clean out your desk immediately. Security will escort you out. She turned to Greg, who flinched as if he'd been struck. Greg, you are also fired. Effective immediately for gross negligence, for enabling a toxic work environment, and for attempting to pass off stolen work as your department's achievement. Finally, she turned to Ryan. He was backing away slowly, his face a mask of panic. The smug, entitled rich kid facade had completely crumbled, leaving behind a terrified boy who had finally been caught in a lie. As for you, Ryan, Sarafina said, her voice dropping to a terrifying whisper, you are not just fired. I am personally filing a lawsuit against you for fraud, corporate espionage, and defamation of character. You will never work in this industry again. The ballroom was dead silent. The only sound was Sharon's muffled sobbing. Sarafina handed the microphone back to the pale, shaking host. The party is over, she announced. She descended the stairs, walking straight to Cole. She didn't say a word, she just pulled him into a tight hug. "I'm sorry, Cole," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I should have been there." Cole hugged her back, burying his face in her shoulder. "It's okay, sis, I handled it." "Yes, you did," she said, pulling back and looking at him with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Let's go home." They walked out of the ballroom together, leaving behind a company that had just been fundamentally altered. The silence stretched behind them, heavy and profound, a testament to the storm that had just swept through. 7. The fallout was swift and brutal. The next morning, the Vance Corporation offices were a chaotic blur of activity. Security guards patrolled the hallways, escorting a weeping Sharon and a red-faced Greg out of the building with cardboard boxes in their hands. Whispers flew through the cubicles like wildfire, detailing the events of the gala, the sheer terror of Serafina's wrath, and the shocking revelation of Cole's true identity. Ryan was nowhere to be seen. Rumor had it he had tried to enter the building but was turned away by security at the front gate. His access badge deactivated. Serafina didn't go to the office. She stayed home with Cole. They spent the morning in the quiet comfort of their childhood home, drinking coffee and talking about their grandmother. They looked through old photo albums, sharing memories and tears, finding solace in each other's presence. "I still can't believe he got away with it for 3 months," Cole said, swirling the dark liquid in his mug. "Everyone just believed him without a single question." Serafina sighed, leaning back against the sofa. "People believe what's convenient, Cole." Ryan offered them an excuse to act poorly. He was a perceived shortcut to power. They chose to ignore the red flags because it benefited them to believe the lie. "It's just depressing," Cole muttered. "I worked my ass off. I put together that entire proposal, and it almost went to him. Because he lied about dating you, it didn't go to him." Serafina reminded him gently. "Because you stood up for yourself. You gathered evidence, you didn't just walk away and let them win." She reached out and squeezed his hand. "I'm proud of you. Cole, grandmother would be proud of you too." Cole managed a small sad smile. "Thanks, sis." Later that afternoon, Serafina's phone began to ring incessantly. The board of directors was demanding an emergency meeting. The sudden fire department director and the HR manager, coupled with the threat of a high-profile lawsuit, had sent shock waves through the company's upper echelon. Serafina ignored the calls for an hour, allowing them to sweat. Then she calmly put on a sharp, tailored suit and headed to the office. She entered the boardroom like a queen stepping onto a battlefield. The air was thick with tension, the faces around the massive mahogany table a mixture of apprehension and forced authority. "Ms. Vance," the chairman of the board began, his voice tight. "The events of last night were unprecedented. The sudden dismissal of key personnel without board approval is highly irregular." "What is highly irregular?" Serafina countered smoothly, taking her seat at the head of the table. "Is a corporate culture that allows an intern to hijack projects, manipulate HR protocols, and falsely claim a personal relationship with the CEO to gain leverage." She leaned forward, her gaze sweeping the room. "The negligence demonstrated by Greg Thomas and Sharon Davis exposed this company to significant legal and reputational risk. My actions were not impulsive, they were necessary to protect the Vance Corporation." The chairman frowned. "We understand the severity of the situation, Miss Vance. However, the optics," Serafina interrupted, her voice sharp, "are that the CEO of this company will not tolerate incompetence, nepotism, or a toxic work environment. The optics are that merit and integrity are valued above all else." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Furthermore, the Starlight Initiative is a critical component of our Q4 strategy. It was solely authored by Cole Vance. I have reviewed the files and timestamps personally. Ryan's involvement was non-existent." A murmur went around the table. The fact that the brilliant new proposal was actually the work of the CEO's brother shifted the dynamic considerably. "I propose," Serafina continued, her voice brokering no argument, "that Cole Vance be offered the position of project manager for the Starlight Initiative, effective immediately with a salary commensurate with the role. He has proven his capability and his dedication to this company." The board members exchanged glances. They knew Serafina, they knew her ruthlessness and her brilliance. Fighting her on this, especially when she was clearly in the right, would be a losing battle. "We agree," the chairman finally conceded. "The board approves the appointment of Cole Vance." "Good," Serafina said, standing up. "Now we have a company to rebuild." 8. Cole returned to the Vance Corporation the following Monday, not as an intern, carrying a cardboard box, but as the project manager of the most important initiative of the quarter. His arrival was met with a mix of awe, awkwardness, and a palpable sense of relief. The toxic atmosphere that had permeated the marketing department under Greg's leadership seemed to have evaporated overnight. The new interim director, a competent and fair-minded woman named Sarah, welcomed him warmly. "Clee, it's good to have you back," she said, shaking his hand firmly. "I've reviewed the Starlight Initiative proposal. It's exceptional work. We have a lot to do and I'm looking forward to working with you." Cole smiled, a genuine, relaxed smile. "Thank you, Sarah. I'm ready to get started." The transition wasn't completely seamless. There were still whispers, still a few sideways glances, but Cole focused on the work. He threw himself into the project with the same dedication he had shown during his internship, but this time he was empowered. He led meetings with confidence. His ideas were heard and respected, and the Starlight Initiative began to take shape under his guidance. Jenny, the receptionist who had stood by him, was promoted to a junior role within the marketing department, a move Sarafina personally approved. "I can't believe it," Jenny whispered to Cole one afternoon, her eyes shining as she looked at her new desk. "I actually have a career path now." "You earned it, Jenny," Cole told her earnestly. "You were the only one who didn't buy into the lies. That kind of integrity is rare." Meanwhile, the lawsuit against Ryan proceeded with brutal efficiency. Sarafina's legal team was formidable, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. Ryan's family, who did indeed have some minor connections in the industry, initially attempted to use their influence to make the lawsuit disappear. They reached out to board members, they called in favors, they even tried to contact Sarafina directly, offering a substantial settlement in exchange for dropping charges. Sarafina refused them all. "This isn't about money," she told Ryan's father coldly over the phone. "This is about accountability. Your son built a career on lies and theft. He attempted to destroy my brother's reputation. He will face the consequences of his actions." The legal battle dragged on for months, a public spectacle that thoroughly destroyed Ryan's reputation. The details of his fabricated relationship with the CEO, his theft of Cole's work, and his manipulation of HR policies were splashed across industry blogs and news outlets. He became a cautionary tale, a pariah in the corporate world. No reputable company would touch him. Sharon, the former HR manager, didn't fare much better. The recording of her admitting to violating labor laws and prioritizing nepotism over policy made her virtually unemployable in her field. She was forced to take a significant step down, working a low-level administrative job in a different city. Greg, the former marketing director, managed to find another position, but it was at a much smaller company with a fraction of the prestige and salary he had enjoyed at Vance Corporation. His reputation as a weak, easily manipulated manager followed him, hindering his career prospects. 6 months after the disastrous welcome gala, the Vance Corporation launched the Starlight Initiative. It was a massive success, exceeding all projections and solidifying the company's position as a market leader. Cole was hailed as a rising star, his brilliant strategy and meticulous execution earning him praise from the board and industry analysts alike. At the launch party, a far more subdued and professional affair than the previous gala, Sarafina stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd. This time there was no sycophantic HR manager introducing fake prodigies. There was only genuine achievement and a renewed sense of purpose. 6 months ago, this company faced a crisis. Sarafina began, her voice calm and authoritative. A crisis not of market share or financial stability but of culture. We allowed a culture of entitlement and deceit to take root, and it nearly cost us our integrity. She looked at Cole, who was standing near the front, a proud smile on his face. But we learned from that crisis. We learned that true talent is not found in loud boasts or fabricated connections. It is found in quiet dedication, in resilience, and in the courage to stand up for what is right. She raised her glass to the Starlight Initiative, and to Cole Vance, whose brilliance and integrity made it possible. The room erupted in applause, loud and genuine. Cole raised his glass in return, his heart full. Later that evening, as the party began to wind down, Cole found Sarafina standing alone on the balcony, looking out over the city skyline. "You know," he said, stepping up beside her, "I never really thanked you properly." Sarafina turned to him, a soft smile playing on her lips. "For what?" "Firing half the management team and launching a massive lawsuit." "For believing me," Cole said seriously, "for not just taking their word for it, for having my back." Sarafina reached out and squeezed his shoulder. "You're my brother, Cole. I will always have your back, but you didn't need me to fight your battles. You had the evidence. You had the courage to walk away when they tried to break you. I just provided the stage for the truth to come out. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. So Sarafina asked, her tone turning playful. What's next for the brilliant project manager, planning to take over my job? Cole laughed, shaking his head. Not a chance, I like the creative side. Dealing with the board is entirely your domain. Good, she replied, her eyes twinkling, because I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. As they walked back inside, Cole felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. The trial by fire he had endured during his internship had been painful, but it had forged him into something stronger. He had learned the harsh realities of the corporate world, the pervasive nature of deceit, and the importance of holding on to his integrity. And he knew without a shadow of a doubt that as long as he stayed true to himself, there was no challenge he couldn't overcome. The Vance Corporation, under the watchful eye of its CEO and the rising star of its new project manager, was entering a new era, one built on merit, honesty, and the unyielding pursuit of excellence. The shadows of the past were gone, replaced by the bright, unyielding light of the Starlight Initiative, a beacon of what could be achieved when the truth finally prevailed. If you like the story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.